Welcome back to the show. Today we have an awesome guest with us. I mean, where do we begin with what you do? You provide insurance. You run an awesome team and a brokerage. You are a fellow podcaster. I mean, welcome to the show. I try to pretend to be.
Yeah. So I think he marks all the boxes for our first guest.
Well, he marks all the boxes. That's right. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me out. It's awesome to be out here. Watched you guys' content for a while. It's been fun. So
appreciate it. Yeah. We've enjoyed getting to know some of our guests who have come through, and we've enjoyed launching this series. And really today, we're looking forward to getting to know you. So maybe the best place to start with this conversation is fill everybody in. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah. Paint the Boggs picture for us, would you?
I'm not quite the artist, but 10,000 foot view. My name is Kevin Boggs. I own an insurance brokerage. Specialize in working within the real estate industry, so we're a big part of that real estate transaction. As far as my business life, I'm married. I have two awesome kids. They're 3 and 5 years old. Like to send Derek a lot of pictures of them.
I was going to say that you don't send me pictures of, right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's, between my work and my personal life, I mean, that's really where all my energy is at right now.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot more going on. It's just too much to juggle,
Yeah. And so with that said, I mean, I've worked with Boggs now for 6-7 years at this point.
2017.
Yeah. I was one of the first people I met professionally, and insurance agents to loan officers are like loan officers to real estate agents, right? Mm-hmm. So they're bugging us, they're pestering us, they want to meet with us, right?
It took me at least 10 calls to get you to answer your phone.
Yeah, I'm a little bit easier than that.
I had to pretend hey, I need to get a better rate on this property.
I'm a little
right. Why don't you disguise yourself as a lead?
Yeah, it's
right?
Hey, my name's Kevin. Call me back. I want to buy a house.
But with that said, being that though we worked together for so long, I've seen your business kind of grow from you just working it on your own to now hiring teammates, to hiring other agents and stuff like that to work for you. So go into how you were able to do that, at what points of your career you knew you needed to build out, what you were doing to build out and things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I started in 2017, I had no connections. I had no leads. I couldn't take any clients. I'd been doing this for about 10 years before I opened my agency. So I kind of took 3 of them, my grandma, my mom, and another family member.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I got to start over. And our model is, marketing within the real estate industry. So I went out and said, I'm going to just meet as many people as I can, as quickly as I can. So You saw me at every event and everything that was going on until we could start building established relationships. And slowly over the next 18 months, we went from being nobodies within, the Goosehead family to, being one of the biggest producing agencies within the Midwest. And eventually the leads just kept coming, and we were like, all right, we need people to help us move these along. And started hiring, one person, then another, and just tried to continue to grow everything out. But it was really that maximum capacity. It's I was halfway in between understanding efficiency and wanting more deals. It was
right.
I'm sure you guys have been there. It's well, if I do this more, I could bring in more. But then wait, I'm not even really doing the best job I can. I'm working 20 hours a day instead of if I was really good at managing my time or whatever. So kind of trying to dial that in has been a big focus for us over the last probably year and a half now, trying to figure out exactly how that process should look. But
because that kind of seems like what the thing people are constantly struggling to figure out is, do I want to be a lean business owner where it's just me, where I'm just doing my own, or do I want to be that individual that's growing out a team, right? Hiring people to work under you. Both, I would assume, kind of had their benefits.
It seems like the natural tipping point for your business was just demand. You reached a point where you had so much demand for what you provide that you couldn't do it all by yourself.
Exactly. I mean, you basically look at what 2017, 18, 19 within real estate, even 20 monster years, right? Mm-hmm. That people are super busy. We're so tied in that influx comes, and once you have 15, 20 good relationships, it's just going and going and going. It's I had to have help just to keep up. You're not going to send me a deal if you get bad feedback that I didn't call someone back or whatever it is, right? So I had no choice. It's hey, we got to go because I can't work any more hours in a day. And then kind of I mentioned before, then we started really dialing in. Okay, if I do this differently, if I do these in one call versus two calls, I could double my capacity theoretically, and still do the things that I need to do. So we just kind of like started transitioning that way, and it's been awesome. I mean, right now with the slowdown, it's kind of been a little slower than it has been, but
the people that are taking advantage of these slowdown markets to kind of fine tune their business or to maybe take care of some of those processes that weren't in place beforehand, I think it's just going to pay tenfold once it starts to heat back up.
100%. And that's the only mindset you can have. You got to just keep putting the effort in every single day to grow, right? Like it's going to hit, right?
Yeah.
It's like that action over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's eventually just going to blow up into something else. And I'm excited for it. Eventually, everything's going to normalize, and whether that's rates stay at 5%, and that's just the norm, and people are I don't know,
Yeah, you never know, right?
But people bought homes at 18%, but still.
So what's in the future for you? Where are you taking your business now, and what do you foresee coming down the pike that maybe people should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, our industry as a whole is a disaster right now. This is like the first time ever our P&C industry is losing money. So I've been told, at least on their underwriting, not on investments.
Yeah.
So you're seeing like tightening of restrictions. Like it's getting really hard for people to get insurance in the first place, let alone.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, like to say the least, and it's only going to get worse for now. So we're expecting like massive increases across the board. So our time right now is getting eaten up a lot by, hey, my rate just went up $800. I need somebody to fix this, and obviously we have that choice model where we have 35 carriers that we work with.
Right.
We just move them one to the next.
Right.
So, but that's the same effort almost with a higher close ratio essentially as a new client. So we have to continue to like fit that into our schedules as well. So to answer your question, I see growing out a team in two different ways, like more of an internal type of team. I'm trying to move myself kind of out of the day-to-day as much, and then, continuing to grow that like outside sales team that, we've been growing over the last few years.
My mind kind of goes twofold here. I mean, number one, I'm interested if you can shed any light on why so much flux is happening in your industry. Is if it's just tied to inflation, if it's just tied to the underwriting, and then secondarily, I'd love to know more about. You said that you're growing your team and you're leveraging yourself away from the business or out of the business a little bit. We talk about that all the time. Versus like working on your business versus working in your business. We'd love to go into that more.
That's the biggest mental struggle I have. I'll start with the industry stuff though. So COVID happened. Right, everyone called it. They called to lower their rates. Right, like, hey, I'm not driving anymore. Give me a lower rate. Hey, I want to put this car in comprehensive. I want to do this, whatever it is. Right, people were calling. Carriers did rebates. Essentially, what happened is nobody called like on the adverse, like, oh, hey, I'm driving again. So everybody kept a good rate. Now you have accident severity, claim severity, and frequency way higher. Right. Yeah. Because of, look at the used car market, right? You're paying how much more just to replace a vehicle if it's total. Labor costs right now are crazy. You look at home insurance, same type of thing. I was just talking to a roofer buddy of mine. They used to be able to, like their cost for a square, right? 10 by 10 of a roof was like $400. It's like $700 right now.
Wow.
So like a $30,000 roof claim is now a $50,000 roof.
So the equivalent coverage of what you could have gotten a few years ago at a very low rate, doesn't even cover the cost of common repairs at this point. No,
they're losing money on claims so quickly right now, which is, and everybody, clients that I tell to like, well, that's why I bought insurance.
Yeah, it's like about time, you guys. Right? It's about time.
Which I kind of agree with.
Yeah,
like my job is not to like pitch insurance companies. Like, how do I put you in the best position I can so that you have a claim, it's covered.
Yeah.
But it's between those two things, and there's been turnover within a lot of bigger companies. There's been there's a separation of like captive agency to independent model, like where captive would be like you're a State Farm or Allstate. You only work with one. Only we have one carrier, whereas like we work with a bunch of different ones. Well, all of the captive carriers outside of really State Farm have started investing heavily into the other market. So now you're kind of like getting this like bigger pooling of risk, and it should work out and benefit in the long run. But I think they're starting to like feel it because it's not entirely like tied together yet, where you're starting to see rate increases go, and not only that, you're starting to see limitations to coverage, like on what they'll pay out on. So it's kind of a mess. Like if you don't know what you're buying, you could be in a pretty bad spot.
So like right now, a lot of those smaller mom and pop or smaller mortgage loan originator companies are getting just destroyed by some of these big players, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing that in your industry as well too with this change? Like is State Farm or Allstate, whatever, are they coming in much more competitive because they have a lot more pool that they can really go from on that?
Yeah, we haven't seen that shift. I think they're just, and I can't speak to their financials or like what they're, what direction they're going.
Yeah.
But I think they're getting hit just as bad as everybody else because
yeah.
it's mainly those two. They've been the biggest. They have huge market shares, especially within the Midwest, where like they're getting hit with these claims just as bad as everyone else is. And it might even be harder for them. And this is just me speaking out of like my own theory, but it might even be harder for them to like pull back on that.
Right.
But they definitely have the capacity to be more competitive. But and it's, it's like you talk to anybody, like 1 out of 3 people I quote, also getting a quote from State Farm.
100%.
And it's always like that. Yeah.
So those companies doing mass scale layoffs and stuff like that too, like we're seeing in our industry?
Yeah, I haven't heard as much about it. I know there's been like changes within departments and things like that with a lot of carriers that we work with.
Yeah.
But in terms of like layoffs, I think they're almost all hands on deck for us because they're like, we need to figure out how to be profitable again.
Yeah.
And then they'll probably cut everybody.
Well, it's interesting.
Let's go.
Thanks for your work. You're out.
It's interesting. I'm hearing as we're talking about this, right? The industry is sort of, I won't call it stagnating, but certainly hitting a threshold that it hasn't faced before, right? With just things costing as much as they do.
Yeah.
So then, meanwhile, you're talking about growing your business a little bit and sort of stepping away from that as a business owner. So walk us through that a little bit. What it's like to be taking your team and your business to the next level while things are sort of transitioning.
Yeah. And I mean, Derek kind of really hit on this before. I have a little bit more time now. Like, how can I refine my process so when I'm busier,
right,
it's just smooth, you
Yeah.
know, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's like where I want to get to, essentially have my business where I can take that step back.
Right.
If you're not set up in, like you said, you got to keep doing the actions now, right? You keep going while you have the time to do it, because when you don't have the time, you really don't have the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of finding that happy medium where like I still will have the time to move the business forward, but also having the team and the processes in place to make sure that everything's getting capitalized on.
Right.
That's the last thing you want is like, this half of the business is out here working, bringing everything in, and then the other half is like, there'll be more. There'll be more leads.
Right.
I would say like your kitchen's messed up then, right?
Yeah.
Your chefs are screwing up.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I did all the marketing to bring you into my restaurant.
Right.
Now the food's terrible.
But we forgot to cook something.
Yeah.
As you've started particularly to think about yourself as an operator of the business rather than in the business, has there been any books, podcasts, anything that motivates you to do that? Was there anything you'd recommend to somebody watching?
Obviously, one of my favorite books of all time is Extreme Ownership, and I think that by Jocko Willink, that like really was the first step that I took, and I read that like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
To like understanding like how I need to be the leader in the business, and like understand like whatever happens is on me; it's not on anybody else. And I actually just started reading a book called Traction.
I'm reading Traction as well.
I literally started it this morning. So I'll let you know how that turns
we'll
out.
Report back.
I've heard amazing things from a bunch of people, so I'm hoping that that points me in the right direction. But I spent a lot of time also on books to help like break through that like mental capacity shutdown that I had. It's like, you wake up one day, you're just like, there's no leads, there's no business, there's no nothing. It's like, what am I doing wrong?
You were talking about the hardest thing about growing a business, in my experience, is to continue to do the things that work when they're not driving instant return. Right? It's easy to have a social media strategy when you get a lot of visibility and instant leads on one video. It's harder when you don't have anybody reach out for 6 months, but you still got to be doing it, right? And like,
consistency.
If you don't stick with the right processes, you don't grow. And like, I do think that comes through.
Yeah, 100%. And, just kind of like, I do a lot of like research on, just like how to break through, like staying motivated, staying positive. I'm like pretty self-motivated, and especially like if I catch a low paycheck or something, I'll freak out a little bit. I'm a spaz, but,
we know that.
It's like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, just trying to stay motivated and stay focused and knock it out. And I'll take any book suggestions you have.
That's great. Yeah, well, always. I was just going to say Traction is one that I'm reading right now. And then Profit First is another book that I love, just about making sure that
I've been told to read that so many times.
it's good. And I think particularly if you're a business owner and you obviously start taking on more sunk costs and debt and liability, and it just is focusing on what's important, which is, profitability.
Yeah.
So separate of the business stuff, obviously, I think the other cool aspect is just that you are an Illinois homeowner, correct?
I am.
So when did you buy your house? Tell us a little bit.
So I originally bought my first house in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
back when there were like still foreclosures hanging around.
Yeah, we're starting to see it come back a little bit now.
Maybe
next
next
year. Yeah, maybe next year. We'll see.
Next year, yeah. When these rates get a little higher.
Yeah, that's right.
Which that was an interesting process in itself to go through. Just buying a foreclosure.
Yeah,
we submitted an offer, didn't hear anything,
Months.
and then call my realtor like, hey, Ed, we're good with it. And then we get a call we're like, where's the contract? Like, send us the contract.
Yeah.
And then 5 days of not hearing from them, they're like, oh, we're doing highest and best or whatever, right? We're like, man. So I ended up paying $15,000 more than I was going to.
Yeah, but still got a great deal, I'm sure.
Still got a good deal.
Yeah.
So we renovated that house, and then most recently we bought in 2019 in Roselle, where we live now. One of the craziest things, I've never thought that this would happen to me or anybody I know. So we're selling the old house. We had already purchased the new house, and we're night before closing with the new house. Where we bought it to gut it. It hadn't been updated in a long time. It's completely gutted. We're on our fourth dumpster in the driveway. Night before closing, I get a call you're not going to believe this, but the person buying your house actually was part of a wire fraud thing and wired the money to somewhere.
Wired their closing money.
The closing money to someone in India or something that hacked them.
Which I'm assuming wasn't a small sum of money.
No, it was a good amount of money from what I understood. And I mean, it threw a ringer through everything, right? Yeah. So it's okay, so are we closing tomorrow or not? It's my reaction. So
right.
Can we just ask a friend?
How quick does the fraud department pick up that?
Can we get the money?
So what happened from there? I mean, what were the?
So they ended up basically saying hey, we need 7 days to figure this out.
Right.
And so we're okay, understandably, yeah. So they wait 7 days. Meanwhile, we have this project that's now waiting for this money, to continue moving forward. And then after that, they were well, I don't think we're gonna be able to get it. The FBI got involved, and then they were yeah, we're out.
Wow.
And so we're oh no, and we had to scramble to relist the house, and now everything is out of the house, right? And
empty.
It's now you got the picture hole wall, the picture holes in the walls, and everything that you couldn't see before, now you can see. So we had to list. We ended up getting lucky. It was 3 days, and we were back under contract at the same price.
That's great.
Very
lucky.
Very lucky. We ran into not inspection issues, but they just asked for a ton of stuff, and it was we had to go through that. But luckily, they ended up closing in 30 days or so, and we could finally continue our project at the other house. So
what a crazy reminder that wire fraud is real and does happen.
That's probably the closest I've been to a wire fraud story. I mean, you hear about it, and I think you tell people to be very careful.
Yeah.
But and mind you, this was 3-4 years ago? Maybe 3 so about 3 years ago.
And it was a phishing scam or something, I'm sure.
Yeah, they literally changed one letter in the email address, had the same email signatures, the attorney, everything.
Yeah.
And I guess to the person who doesn't know,
right.
Hey, my lawyer just said do this.
What's the rule of thumb? Always call and verify the wire information.
You always call the title company directly to verify the wire information.
Yeah.
I would never wire money in general unless I absolutely had to after seeing
no
that
kidding.
happen.
Yeah, I'd have to see a blood sample from the person just to make sure it works.
Well, now you're moved in, right? Your house is done renovated.
Yeah, I am moved in. I still got to finish the basement. A couple projects to my wife. If she ever listens to this, I will do them. We did, the whole upstairs, downstairs, 3 bathrooms, just
That's great.
A lot of work, but it was it's fun. It's exactly the way we wanted it. So
That's perfect. That's all you can ask for, really. I mean, nightmare to get there, but as long as that.
What a process to get there. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, you were out maybe 30 days of just not knowing what the heck was going to happen.
yeah, it was. I got to the point where I was like calling my father-in-law, my uncle, like, I might need to borrow like 20 G's, man. Like, I'll pay you as soon as I close on the house, but like, I don't know what to do because
I'm kind of strung out over here.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm trying to move into this house, and right now I got like no money. I need to go buy cabinets for the kitchen. I need to
everything done.
literally all this stuff, and like I just like put all this money into one thing. It's like I don't know. So it was a fun experience. Definitely stressful, but in the end, it really just a blip on the radar. It's like how most problems end up, anyways.
Oh, that's how most home buying nightmares we talk about. They have a happy hour or a happy ending to them,
or at least something you can look back and kind of laugh about. Too.
Yeah,
I'm sure the person that was out $80,000 for the wire fraud's not laughing still.
Hopefully they got it back.
I'm hoping they got it back.
Yeah,
that's a crappy situation.
If the FBI wants to follow up with us on that story, that'd be great.
Yeah. No.
Well, before we let you go, is there something that you're seeking as you're growing a team in particular?
Yeah, I'm really at this point. I'm looking for good people who want to get into a good environment. Want to learn an industry. I mean, there's a lot of different paths that you could take through learning the insurance industry.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's going to work for a corporate company, opening your own agency, building long-term wealth within ours, and we're looking for good people to add to our team. Is really the bottom line. And if you're tied into the real estate industry in some way, shape, or form, that's a plus.
That's great.
So
people can also listen to you on your podcast, which is
the Better Call Boggs podcast.
Better Call Boggs.
We got four episodes out. We'll get some more going out soon.
Love that.
I do love that name.
It's a great name.
Yeah. I don't think we could have played off of our last names like that.
No, it doesn't really work that well.
We'll do a spoof off of his. We'll call it Breaking Bad of some sort, right? We'll figure out a way
real estate.
Yeah,
that's right.
Breaking Bad real estate.
Well, we are the real estate bad boys. All right. Well, thank you so much for making the time. We appreciate you coming on the show. We'll make sure we get links out there so that everybody can like, follow, subscribe for your podcast as well. Thanks for checking it out, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.